When does an antique become a burden? That's an interesting question to talk about today on Easy Rightsizing with Janine Bryant of Changing Spaces SRS. Every Saturday morning we sit down for a few minutes to talk about transitioning your life and the journey that's involved in it. Good morning, Janine.
Good morning, Dale. Hello.
Good. Antiques to the thought of an antique becoming a burden. Dictionary defining antique as a collectible object, such as a piece of furniture or work of art, that has a high value because of its considerable age. But it's all in the eye of the beholder, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. We work with clients all the time who have antiques, and sometimes antiques can really be a barrier, I think, to right sizing, because when we are working with clients who are moving out of a larger home and they're going to a smaller home, or clients who are emptying out maybe their loved one's home after their parent or grandparent has passed away, boy, it's always those antiques that no one's really sure what to do with, because it seems a little sacrilegious to just get rid of an antique, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of scary. And so that's something that we see a lot here at our work at Changing Spaces. And one of the things that that people tend to do a lot is if they want to either sell the antique, if they don't want to keep it, they think, well, if it's old, it's got to have value. And we have talked before on this program about how you determine whether or not something has value. Lots of times it has to do with the condition of the item, and of course, how it's all about supply and demand. So how many people are there in the marketplace looking for an item like that, and then how many items like that are available for purchase. So lots of times people want to sell an antique. Other times they want to maybe donate an antique. I hear this all the time. Oh, I bet the local historical society would love to have this piece of, furniture or this army uniform or whatever. And something that got me thinking about this not too long ago is that I was at a local museum. I'm not going to name the museum, but I was talking with the docent about what it is that I do, and that is when she shared with me that at this local museum, their basement was filled with antiques and donations that people had given to the museum because they thought, well, surely this old rocking chair or this old spinning wheel, the local historical society would love this old antique. And so they donate it, and they try to be, the museum board tries to be picky and choosy about what it is they accept into the museum's collection. But it can be hard to turn people down, especially when they're trying to donate to your organization. So they end up accepting a lot of these antiques, and then they end up just storing them in the basement. So I really want to challenge our listeners to think about whether or not these antiques are a burden or a blessing when you are choosing to donate them. Does that make sense, Dale?
It makes perfect sense, and I'm thinking, too, of my own personal situation. There are items that I have that in my mind are valuable, but only because of the experience that's behind that item. Mm-hmm. Whether it's an autographed baseball that I can still see my son trying to get from a baseball player, or maybe it's a piece of furniture that my grandmother had that to me is very valuable, but to someone else lacking that experience, not having that emotion tied to it, it's just another item.
That's right. And so something that it's important to remember is that value doesn't always mean monetary value, right? So something might be worth a lot to me because it belonged to my grandmother or my great-grandmother. But here's the thing, everyone out there has a grandmother, right? So just because this old sewing machine belonged to my grandmother doesn't mean that it's going to mean a lot to you, Dale, because maybe your grandmother had something else that you have positive associations with, and so that's why it's going to mean something to you. So sometimes our emotional ties to an item are a lot stronger than maybe their monetary value. And that's okay. And as long as we go into a transition, a downsizing transition, knowing that it's okay that an item means more to us than it does monetarily into the marketplace. However much money you can sell an item for does not necessarily determine its value, right? And once we wrap our brains around that, letting go of items and downsizing our items becomes so much easier because you are not placing so much emphasis on the actual dollar amount that you get for an item.
And you know people experts in the antique field who can place a value on an item, and that is eye-opening for some people to realize it's worth more than they thought, or in a lot of cases less.
Absolutely. You know, we not only help seniors move and downsize, but we also organize and run estate sales. And we've been doing online auctions since COVID hit. And so we work with several appraisers in the area, and we sell things each and every week, and we see what they sell for. And I do think that lots of times our clients are surprised that some things bring more than they thought. Maybe it was something that they would have just thrown out, and we said, no, just leave it. You know, someone will buy that, and they're surprised at how much they got for it. And then other times, one particular piece they think is going to be worth thousands of dollars, and maybe it only brings a couple hundred. But that's why we really coach our clients not to kill themselves by looking at each individual item and what the price was you got for it, but look at the overall total and think to yourself, okay, I emptied out my house and I made $14,000 on all the items, left in my house, and to feel pretty good about that. So, but it can be hard for those of you listening who are trying to go through your homes and downsize and declutter and let go of some of those things. Those antiques can be a barrier because you're not really sure what to do with them if it's not something that you want to keep. First of all, I always say try to convince your kids to take it. But if you're not able to convince family members to take a certain antique, it might be because there's no real story attached to it. I've talked over and over again about the only reason a keepsake is valuable to family members is because there is a story attached to it. So make sure that you're doing a good job of attaching stories to the keepsakes that you hope family members and future generations will value. But if a family member is not interested in an antique, to really think about how it could go out into the world and go into someone else's hands who would really appreciate the item. One thing that I had to deal with recently, my dad came to visit. I'm originally from North Dakota. My dad came down to visit, and he brought with him a whole box of old Norwegian books and Bibles. So up in North Dakota, there's a lot of Norwegians up there, and our family is no exception. We have a lot of old things from Norway, okay? And some of them, we know the story, and it's cool, and we can attach meaning to it, and we have kept them. A bunch of Norwegian books, which were passed down from my grandparents to my parents. They've been stored in barns along the way. They're kind of musty, kind of moldy. The covers are torn. They're not in great condition. I knew that when my dad brought those to me, I knew, okay, well, I'm not going to sit down and flip through these books ever. I'm not able to read them. I don't speak Norwegian. And so what am I going to do with them? I didn't want to just throw them out, okay? These are books from the 1800s. It seemed wrong to throw them out. What I did is I gave them away for free. So I listed it online. You can list things online, Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for free, and you would be amazed at what you can get rid of. And then I felt within 24 hours, someone had come to my house. I just set it outside my front door. They picked it up. And then suddenly those books are in the hands of someone who values them, who is interested in them, and who can do whatever they want with them. But it's out of my home, and I feel like I did my due diligence to get it into the hands of someone who wants it.
Janine, I recently did just that. Not Norwegian books, but I put something on Facebook Marketplace for free. Several items that I thought they're just taking up space. And the people who came last weekend were so excited. They were there in about less than an hour. And when they knocked on the door and I showed them the item, I could just see in their face they were excited to get it. First, they paid nothing for it. That's always kind of a buzz. But to see how they enjoyed what I thought I couldn't get rid of fast enough was a big turnaround for me.
Absolutely. And, Dale, I just did the same thing, except not with an antique. It was with an exercise machine that was getting no use in our basement. And I thought, I don't want to mess with selling it, so I did the same thing. I listed it for free. This cute young couple came to pick it up, and I thought, boy, they were thrilled. And I thought, they're going to get a lot better use out of it than I ever did. And now it's out of my house. And that's what we really encourage people to do, is to be proactive and get rid of things all along the way instead of letting it sit in your home for 10 or 20 or 30 years and then suddenly the house is overflowing and it's too much to deal with. So continue to do that. Give things away for free if you're not using it.
And your staff helps put it in perspective, asks the right questions, get the person that owns it thinking about, yeah, you may be right. I don't need all these Norwegian moldy books.
Exactly. There you go.
If you want some advice, there are plenty of resources for which you can tap into. ChangingSpacesSRS.com. You can check out new online auctions there. ChangingSpacesSRS.com is also a great resource to learn more about the services provided by Janine and her staff at Changing Spaces SRS. And of course, the book. The book is Ready to Right Size, a step-by-step guide to your right-sizing journey for older adults and their loved ones. It's available on Amazon, and I went there, and there are some rave reviews. You're getting good stars, Janine.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Great resource to pass along. Here's another one that says, let me flip over here, plenty of reviews. Just the right size, succinct, expert advice, A+. Whether you are downsizing your own home or your family's place, this book will help you think through the steps and get the right mindset. Very helpful. So Amazon is a good place to go to pick up your book.
That's right. Yep. If you just search Ready to Right Size on Amazon.com, you can order it. It'll come straight to your door. And if you don't know how to do that, if you're not comfortable ordering on Amazon, just give us a call at 402-483-0555, and we'll make sure you get a copy.
And of course, the door is always open here on Sunday mornings. You're welcome to be part of the conversation on easy right-sizing with Janine Bryant of Changing Spaces SRS. Janine, we'll talk next week.
Thanks, Dale.